Welcome to WROL Broadcast. I am Hate Mail, and with me today we have Burger
What's up?
and Mr. Zubaz,
How we doing tonight?
who's the most popular man in DCL lately.
That's it.
He's getting around. And this is the Burger Shack, and we are showcasing the new tunes today. So let's go ahead and just get right into them. Let's start with the main attraction, who I think probably, well, you tell us, Burger, who is your, who do you like of the new tunes the best?
Oh, hands down, Batman Who Laughs.
So he's pretty good.
Yeah, I think I think it's similar to kind of like the Impulse one where like his kit is really strong and like you don't need a lot of like the legendaries in order to really make him great. But he does have a pretty cool and unique little kit that seems to be able to do a lot.
I was really intrigued by the speed down when he's hit to the rest of the team, but not the person attacking. That just seemed really unique and different, and seemed like a neater character.
For sure.
What would
the
you
20% turn meter.
What would you think you'd rate him? Just if you were to give him a score early on, and how strong you think he's going to be.
I'd probably say A tier. If I had to guess, I think he would go well on a lot of teams, and complement several, a lot of different tunes. Nowhere near, not S tier by any means, but I'd probably say A tier so far.
I've faced him a couple times now, and he does seem like he's pretty strong. He took a full buffed Lex to the face, so he's not super squishy anyway. And I haven't faced him. I've only faced him twice, I think, and both times were in Siege, so I wasn't gonna even play around with him at all because he seemed a little scary, so I didn't want to risk anything. But
From what I've seen, I've seen him very little, but what it seems like is on defense at least, if you don't take care of him right away, he can become a problem much later for folks.
I noticed, I was watching one of your videos, Burger, it seems like those crit chance ups, he can stack like 45 of those in like 2 turns. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh yeah, no, he stacked them really quickly. But like whenever I'm sitting here and like I use him, like I mean, it's the cool thing is when I look at my defense log, generally like 2 or 3 days into Siege, you're looking at like 15 losses, 16 losses already. But like this morning when I was adding them up, I was 4 wins and 11 losses. So I think it is kind of giving people a little bit of fits. Part of it probably being they just don't know how to handle them yet, and they might underestimate them or go after prioritize somebody else. But it's so far it's been pretty cool. I've been seeing a lot more defensive wins.
Yeah, he definitely he's definitely a scary character, but this Siege is ridiculous. This Siege is so hard. This is like I've never sweat so much in every match in Siege.
Yeah, I mean, you saw a couple of my matches because I was sending you video. It's definitely getting close several times.
Yeah, I had a loss today. It was a team I tested 10. Actually, I think I tested it 20 times, and I knew if like 4 different things happened, I would be in trouble, but I couldn't get it to replicate but one time. And even then I was able to be okay. So I was like, well, the odds of that happening are so low. And of course it happened. But where Barda gets a double taunt and Lex doesn't crit. And just like there was so many things that had to happen for it to go south. And it all happened. And it went south. So I should have known better. I should have went for a safer team. But oh well. It seems like everybody's doing poorly because I was still pretty high in the standings considering.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying to Josh earlier that I think that this Siege, more than any other, I know a lot of players, they take the opportunity to test in Wraith against the same exact lineup. But because the percentages are so wacky, like it's impossible to replicate whatever Hawk Girl is going to do. Whether she's going to get 1 stun or 3 or whatever. And so that little thing just changes the entire match. I think it can give you a feel for the match, but I don't think you'll ever be able to replicate the same match twice.
No, it just seems like it's all over the place. And then the Siege AI and the Wraith AI are so different.
Right.
Like absurdly different. So what would you say? Batman Who Laughs seems kind of like a character that you really don't need a particular team for him. Is there any teams that you would think are better than others, or you think he's kind of just a plug and play character?
Well, so some of it, like, it requires, some of his kit, like, is triggered by, having, like, disease and stuff like that. And so, like if you were to have, like a 2D team, like, I'm sure he actually probably fit great on there.
Batman, or are you talking about King Shazam?
Oh, actually, yeah, sorry, King Shazam. Yeah, that's right. So with him, like, he seems to work well with, every team that I've tried him on. Lex team's always going to do well because he adds buffs on several of his moves. So yeah, I haven't got a chance to test him a lot because during raids when he first came out, obviously going ham on raids kind of slows you down a little bit. But
yeah.
So far, everybody I've used him on, he does pretty well.
Yeah, I don't really see anything that would lend him to be better than any other team. I guess he does seem like he'd probably pair pretty well with Barda just because Black Flash or anybody does an AoE, they're in so much trouble.
Yeah, when you look at his synergies and so many toons in the game have all these gates that they have to meet. He doesn't really have gates on his own. His gates are enemy gates. If the enemy has crit chance ups, that sort of thing, and you just can't plan for that. He's going to be great against Black Flash because again, he's got an enemy gate of speed ups, that he can purge or whatever, something like that. But otherwise, like, there's nothing like, oh, if he's overhealed, he gets X. So you don't have to worry about trying to fit him in with your own team.
And I have a feeling those are the losses, Burger. Somebody just rolled in with Black Flash. Oh, it should be easy. And then they get destroyed.
Yeah, I've had some. I can't find any revenges to do because everybody's using, like, insane teams against me. Like, it just doesn't make any sense for me to do any revenges right now.
Yeah, I can see that. If you had just kind of an early thoughts legendary order, what would you say on him?
4 absolutely going first. So where if any enemy dies, no matter who kills him, like he gets an extra move. So that's crucial. And so you're sitting there getting extra attacks each match every time you take somebody out. So I'd say is 4. Then is 3. I think I would lean into. And so like just to get the medium overhill. Even though it's only 50% chance, then I went his 1, then 2, and then 5.
Okay. Yeah, I could see where you're saying it doesn't seem like, other than his 4 and maybe his 3, there really isn't a whole lot of reason to take him any higher. If you the type of person who is limited on shards or anything, he's probably perfectly fine at L1, L2.
Oh yeah. Again, I think it was really similar to the Impulse one where you really have like a couple of them you do, and they're so much of their kit, like the best parts of it are without the legendary order. So yeah, I think you can get away with that.
All right, let's move on to King Shazam. What are your early thoughts on him, just overall?
I would rank him B. I think like a B tier. So, he definitely, brings some utility. The good thing about him is he actually hits harder than normal Shazam. So that's nice. And so, so far, I like him. Like I've been using them together a lot. And, I think what I was saying earlier, like I think a lot of the King Shazam's kit is able to be enhanced by, his disease and stuff. So if you pair him, with people with disease, like it's he does really well.
I noticed that he seems to stack up diseases crazy fast on defense, at least. The one time I faced him, I didn't kill him as fast as I meant to, but for some reason I underestimated him a little bit. I didn't think he'd be too big a deal, and I mean, it was so close for me dying, losing 2 toons to disease. He stacks those up so fast. Are you seeing that on offense, that he can stack them up pretty quickly, or is it just kind of a defense thing?
There's definitely been some that he absolutely has, where I've seen him like really lay into Barda, and like her overhill can't keep up with it. But I'm not seeing it that often, so it's not like every match I'm seeing him do a ton of damage with it. But some of the matches that go on several rounds, like it definitely starts stacking up.
Have you faced him at all, Zubaz?
I have not faced him yet. I've seen him in very, very limited action. Obviously it looks like, just based on his kit, though, that he is going to be this sort of the ultimate disease toon, which, just to drop a little comment here, I think that's why I was brought in, was to talk a little bit about like who these characters are and what they're doing.
I was just about to head to that.
Oh,
yeah.
So it is bizarre that King Shazam is this disease toon. That's the weird part. This strikes me as another incident like Amazo, where they did perhaps very, very cursory research about like who this character is or what they do, and then assigned the kit based on that. So when Amazo came out, he's this disease toon. People are asking why, and the only thing I could think of was, there was a whole storyline called the Amazo virus. Even though that it wasn't like an Amazo-driven event, it was a Lex thing, and they made him a disease toon. So here you've got King Shazam. He's the infected. He's one of the Secret Six, Batman Who Laughs Secret Six, and his goal, his raison d'etre, is to infect Superman. But it's not his own toxins or anything like that. He's using one of Batman Who Laughs batarangs to go infect Superman.
Well, to be fair, he is carrying a batarang, and that's what he uses on his 2.
Okay, well, so that's the best that they can do, though. But then it's even weirder then that Batman Who Laughs does not have any disease. That's where it's very strange. So King Shazam, he really, in my opinion, he should have just been a skin. I don't think he warranted an entire other character in the game. But if you look
Joker,
at
is that you?
Yeah.
I swear he said the exact same thing like 3 hours ago.
It's true. I mean, so King Shazam, he appears in very, very few comics. In his own comic, we do get to see a little bit of his powers, and it's basically just Shazam to the highest possible level. In his own comic, he beats up a whole bunch of gods. It's kind of cool to see. I mean, the storyline itself is not particularly great.
Is it an individual comic, or is it a graphic novel series?
It's a one-shot. He's got it's literally King Shazam #1. I think it's called King Shazam the Infected. It came out when they did a one-shot for each of the Secret Six guys. So there was one for Donna Troy, one for Blue Beetle. Basically going through all of them. He's got his own. There's very limited story. It's mostly just him beating up other people, other gods, and that's kind of the end of it. And the idea that warrants its own character in the game, and then that it's a disease character, was very, very confusing to me.
So, quick question. I'm on Amazon. I'm looking. It says King Shazam, Year of the Villain, Infected, and then for some reason it's coming up with Batman Superman #1 Variant Edition, Batman Superman #3. Is he in all 3 of those, or just the one?
He does. No, he appears in those Batman Superman comics. So the solo one is his own thing. It's his story where essentially after he fights all these gods, he fights Mary as well. The ones in the Batman Superman comics actually advance the story a little bit more, because that's where those main stories were coming from. In the Batman Superman comics, that's where he is actually trying to lure Superman into the trap to infect him with the infected batarang, that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
But then he ends up infecting Supergirl, right?
Yeah, she basically takes the bullet for Superman. So Supergirl she becomes the infected, and then they're all cured later. That's kind of the end of it. So, he doesn't get it. He fails in his one mission. His one mission was to infect Superman, and he fails at it. And then we really don't hear from him again.
All right, so what I will do is I just ordered that issue. So if you're listening to this episode, go on our YouTube page, make a comment in the comments page, and whenever I get this, because it says I'm not going to get it till May 11th to May 15th, we will air, once I got it, and it will be read once, and then whoever comments and is interested in winning, just comment in the comments section, and we will give this away as another giveaway.
Nice. It has very good art, that issue. I really did like the art in his King Shazam issue. I'm kind of a mythology buff. He does fight a number of gods who normally don't appear in DC Comics. I won't spoiler it, but yeah, I mean, it's a fun little kind of popcorn issue with not much at stake.
Cool. I look forward to reading that. And then let's go back to the character. Obviously, teams, disease characters, probably pretty good with them. Have you had a chance to do that at all, Berger, or just Siege with them?
Well, so I tried to do one with my Raws and everybody, but unless you have him RB5, he's not going to last very long. So I got steamrolled several times when I tried to have fun with it like that. So I don't think he would work very well with mine. L5 isn't enough.
Yeah, that's always been my problem with disease or bleed teams. They die so fast. The matches are so quick. Except for, unless you're doing like a Barda type match type thing. This is where I kind of think he might work. And I'm kind of looking forward to using him because I really think you could just try to just sustain as long as you can and just see if you can disease out the enemies. That might work. I kind of toyed with the idea since he had a stun. I was like, oh, maybe I can make him work with Hawk. And then I could burn my rebirth crystals finally that I've been storing up that I can't seem to spend.
His stun does come in handy, especially against the bot team so far.
So let's talk legendary order with him. He's a little tougher because his legendaries look like they are a little bit more required.
Yeah, so I did 5 first because I like the idea of having the chance for his disease to spread faster and get it going earlier on. And so applying that, to a random enemy at the start of the combat, I did that. And then after that, it kind of, I tried to look at it like how I would play with them in Siege and what would come out first with it. So after that, I did his 3 for heal immunity on the primary target. And then I did 2 to apply enrage. And then I did his 4 and then his 1 after that.
Yeah, it's kind of, actually, just looking at it, that's kind of what I would have thought would probably be what people would go for.
What does the disease at the beginning of battle, I guess, what does that really do for you? Potentially maybe eat some awareness from the enemies?
Well, so because it spreads every turn.
Okay.
I forgot. I think I don't remember the exact thing, but I think it's 15% chance to spread. And so then that goes to the other team, to his teammates. And then every time they keep sharing it, then it's 3% damage for every disease they have.
Yeah, it's just like bleeds, but they're moving around constantly.
Right.
But a lot of his kit is gated by disease.
Right.
So, because he's got the one ability that makes it so that he can apply 3 strength downs if they have disease, 75% chance, and then
Let me just ask this too, and I know the answer to it, but it might be helpful for if you have new players listening and that sort of thing. Because your Shazam goes first, those diseases will apply even against Hal Jordan team, right, Berger?
They do.
Okay.
They do stack underneath.
Yeah, I think it will prevent the spread, but the initial 3 will be there.
Right.
All right. let's go back to, I have a question for you, Zubaz. On Batman Who Laughs, Joker, for some reason, is not a fan of the character. I couldn't remember if you were at all.
I am not a big fan of that storyline. I'll be honest. I think that the entire Dark Knights and everything, that metal, I think it's a result of DC having written themselves into a corner over like several decades, which is, they saved the universe. So then they expanded, and now there's a multiverse, and they saved the multiverse, and then they went to the source wall, and they saved like time and history and like existence itself. And so they're like, okay, well now what? What can we save next? So they invented the dark multiverse, which is like the opposite of already the multiverse. And spoiler alert, they've saved that now. So I don't know what is next, but that's where, to me, that this comes as a result of, where it's just like, all right, we got to up it, and that's where Batman Who Laughs comes from. And so he is this very, I think Hawk Guy put it particularly well when he said try hard. He's a character that is supposed to be sort of the best of Batman and the best or worst, however you want to think of it, of Joker. And to me, in the end, those characters are both so similar and then so opposite that the character that results of combining them winds up being not particularly interesting to me.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
So I look at it, so I didn't like the ending of it. But it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like a newer way to kind of tell the, you remember, like, I think it was in the 90s, like the Tower of Babel storyline.
Right.
And where it was like basically Batman, like, things he put in place were able to take out everybody. And so it, you kind of always have that thought, right? Like, Batman, yeah, like he has plans for everybody. He always has these contingency things, but it always goes back to he's still immortal. Like, so, like, what can he really do against some of these characters that, are gods or, equivalent almost, like in the DC universe? And so, I think, like, the thing that I liked about it at first, because I actually liked the initial parts of it, where it started showing, like, what happens if Batman, like, if he did go rogue and he finally killed Joker, then that's kind of what transforms him. Because, like in several things, like it has it where like Joker has like the laughing gas inside of him that's released if whoever kills him, it's kind of like his last laugh at them. And so, that kind of changes him, right? But then you also have it where, if he had a Green Lantern ring, if he had the Speed Force, if he, took Doomsday DNA infused into his, and you start seeing like how like Batman's mind works, but then if you actually started adding in some of these other powers, just how overpowered he can be, and so I liked it at first for kind of telling some of that storyline, but yeah, towards the end, I think it got a little bit hard to read.
Yeah, my opinion, Marvel, they have their What If series where it's like, oh, what if Namor joined the Fantastic Four? And they do like a one-shot, and it's just like a cool story about what would happen if this weird circumstance. What would happen if Deadpool was Weapon X instead of Wolverine? Whatever the case may be. And that, I think, is how they really could have just handled this, is what if Batman got a Green Lantern ring? What if Batman, had to rule Atlantis? Like that sort of thing. And I think that those characters were cool. I absolutely agree with that. I think the whole story certainly just got a little convoluted. And I'm a little bit more of a purist about Batman, which is I will always prefer a small-scale story where he is just dealing with something as a detective in Gotham City as opposed to having to save the entire multiverse and dark multiverse at the same time or whatever.
Yeah.
Again, like talking about Marvel a little bit, like you've got Daredevil. A lot of people compare him to Batman in some instances. And Daredevil has made the last 40 or 50 years managing not the universe, not even New York City, but like 25 square blocks in Midtown Manhattan. And that's where almost all of his stories occur, like outside of a couple little jaunts to, Europe or San Francisco or whatever. But he's had a really successful run being that small scale character. Same thing with Spider-Man. Before DC kind of blew up, that's how Green Arrow was. That's how the Flash was in Central City and everything. And now everything has to be so gigantic, and I think that they lose it a little bit when they try to stick the landing.
Yeah, like the Batman who becomes Gotham City and just basically a bunch of buildings and stuff that comes together. Yeah, pretty ridiculous.
See, I've never been a huge. I mean, I enjoy Superman, but I've never been a huge Superman fan for that reason. I don't like when the characters are just too insanely powerful when they're basically gods. It becomes too much. It it loses the fantasy because you're like, that's why I'd always liked Green Lantern. Like I liked a lot of the Green Lantern stories, but I didn't like Green Lanterns as a whole just because it seemed like their power was unlimited. And
well, let me tell you then, you are not going to like Dark Knight's Metal because this is Batman at his kind of as close to omnipotent as he's ever going to get, basically.
I have it, and I started reading it, and then I never finished it. And I kind of enjoyed the first couple issues, and I was going to go back and dig those out of the archives, and then I was going to buy the Batman Who Laughs graphic novel to do as a giveaway. Because my problem with a lot of these comics, I stopped buying them because I got tired of storing them. But I'm like, this actually works out. I'll just give them away at the end. So
right. Oh, man.
So before we wrap this up, just some quick thoughts on the reworks. How you guys liking? Zubaz, we'll start with you. How you liking Barda and Bizarro?
I think Barda was somebody who was probably on the low end of needed a rework, but they certainly made her just a little bit better, and so that's great. I think people are having mixed results. She seems to be very RNG dependent, like, oh yeah, my Barda triggered every single turn that match, and then the next time you run her, it's like, is she broken? Did they forget to turn her on this particular match? So that's interesting. Bizarro, I wish that they had done a little bit more to open his gates as well. He does seem very effective. His stun move is incredible now, where it purges the immunities and then stuns. That's a really, really incredible mechanic. I do think he suffers, though, when there's not debuffs flying around, and I wish there was some way to help him open those gates a little bit better. But overall, I think that they are both improvements, and that's usually the most that you can ask for the reworks.
How about you, Burger?
Yeah, I agree totally with the Barda. Like, it seems like mine will never trigger, but when on defense, when I'm playing others, like, she's triggering every move, like even before I touch the screen to even hit her. And so I'm sitting there like, oh man, what's going on? But yeah, I do think they found a way to make her better, found a way to get her to where people will use her regularly. Yeah, I can see her, really helping, a lot of teams. Like, you throw her in there with Coda and stuff, like you can, give a little extra sustain, protect her some, shield her a little bit, and then, let her kind of do her thing. So, I absolutely think, she's probably A if I had to rank her. And then Bizarro, he does a lot. And he like, I mean, whether or not it's bleeds or, stunning, really outside of like the one move though, and trying to load him up with like Manta or somebody in Siege and trying to take out like a Barda just to stack bleeds and stuff. Like I don't know if he'll get like a lot of play, after Siege. So I'd probably have him like a B toon.
Yeah, I didn't like Barda that much at first. And then as I was playing Siege, this morning, I think it was, I broke and took her RB3 just to give her a little more survivability. And that seemed to be the catalyst to make it so she never taunts again. She hasn't taunted in probably 20 matches. But when I play a toon like that, I just assume they're never going to use their passive ability that I need, and she actually does pretty well without it. She's very tanky, and that was the reason I decided to pull the trigger on her. I still don't know if I'm going to take her RB5, even though I think she would be an asset for when you need just a red tank, that because I can't rely on MJ to ever dodge. So, Metallo, he's probably my favorite red taunter, and he can take a few hits, but not like Barda can. So I am pretty impressed with her for that reason. And Bizarro, I'm with you guys. He's kind of lackluster. He's a character that I think might actually be halfway decent at RB5 because he could take hits, but really he's got one move, and that one move is incredible, and I'll probably bust him out here and there just to solve, Coda under Hal, different problems like that. But I'm with you on that. He's probably not going to see a ton of play, but he was a trash tier character easily. So at least, now he's respectable and serves a purpose.
Let me ask you guys both this, since it's been kind of a subject floating around the forums a little bit. They both have turn 0 taunt. They both, neither one of them has any way to avoid kind of like a one-shot kill or something like that. But both of them also are on legendaries. So, do you recommend that people take the turn 0 taunt for either of them, or do they consider not doing it?
I would say if you're below gear 11, you might want to, especially Bizarro. Bizarro, I'd think about not taking it because he's Darkseid and a few others can take him down pretty fast. Barda, though, at gear 11 especially, I don't know. I feel like that's her. Like without it, I don't see why you would bring her even.
Yeah, I would take it on both, but I look at it. So I generally only use the toons during Siege, and that's it. And so I would, I absolutely do. I think that it makes sense to have it on both.
I know it helped Josh in one of his matches. I can't remember which one it was. When I was watching a stream at one point, not having it on Bizarro because he was L4 and didn't take it. But with Barda,
yeah,
especially,
I think for Siege it's been interesting just because a lot of people don't want to hit Barda and trigger her stuff. And so if you run Barda and Bizarro, people have the option of attacking the Bizarro instead, which makes their match a lot easier. I don't think that's like a good reason to not take it. That's a unique circumstance. Like, oh, well, I don't want my defense to be a little bit easier in Siege when I have just run them both in one match. That's awfully specific. But other than that, I especially think low gear people that are prone to one shots, you may want to just think twice or slot it at the end.
Yeah, but I really don't know what Barda brings to the table. I guess because you're waiting to use her taunt to get the death immunity, so I guess that makes sense. But
right, and when it comes with mends and stamina ups, as opposed to just in the beginning when it's just the taunt.
Right. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. So if you're lower gear, and I even put that in my legendary order, to be mindful of that. All right. Well, any other comments before we wrap this up?
I just have one question. So Zubaz, when are you going to get your own show?
I am loving just being a guest on other shows right now. We're still, I'm working on it though. I'm building like a little studio. I'm getting a mic, getting a camera, getting a cool background, and we'll see. And then maybe I'll have you guys on. It'll be awesome.
We have had some WRL negotiations trying to get a Zubaz episode. So. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for, doing the whale thing, Burger, as always, every month.
Burger, we were talking about that earlier, and we decided that it's too big to just call it whaling now. It's blue whaling is what it's known as, because that is the largest animal that has ever been in the ocean. So, congrats on blue whaling again this month.
Well, my credit card definitely feels like it's getting hit by a blue whale. But you get cool points and rewards, so I'm stacking those. So that's nice.
Yeah, there you go. All right, guys.
Man.
Thanks a lot.
Cool.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Don't forget to comment if you want to get a copy of the King Shazam issue. Thanks for listening.
Hi, This is Renee Sylvia 88, DC Legends moderator. Thank you for listening to this episode of WROL Broadcast. If you like this show, please check out patreon.com/WROL Broadcast and find out how to get cool perks. DP was worried about the coronavirus, but we reminded him that this wasn't a computer virus.